right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final episode of the MarkHack 4.0 pre-conversation series, proudly created by the Eco Innovation Center in collaboration with the GDM Group. My name is Antonia Anyao, Programs Officer at Eco Innovation Center, and your host for this year's MarkHack event. I must tell you, it's been such a powerful journey over the past few weeks. And today we bring it all together as we gear up for the main event on the May 23rd, 2025 at the Landmark Event Center. And if you haven't registered for adventure, I wonder where you have been, right? But if you haven't registered, you can go to our website, www.markhack, right? And register and secure your seat to attend this remarkable conference. We started the journey on April 23rd with our pilot session on storytelling as fuel, crafting narratives that drive consumer loyalty. And it was such a masterclass in authenticity, purpose, and brand truth. We had Gospel, Okiki, Jessica, and of course, Mr. Olu, who walked us through why your why matters, and then how consumers resonate more with genuine stories than with manufactured perfection, right? And then we moved to April 30th, where we explored gamification and engagement, making consumers part of your story. We had with us Oluwanifemi, who reminded us that he just simply breaks down the definition of gamification, reminding us that it's simply a reward system, right? And it doesn't always have to involve monetary rewards, right? And Lois White Jonah also added clarity on which sector you can truly benefit from gamification. And he laid emphasis on education, health, and digital, right? And then we moved all the way to last week, which was May 7th, where we tackled the death of traditional retail, right, and why digital is the only future. And we had with us Alexander and Dami, who challenged us to rethink the retail experience entirely, right? They emphasized how digital and physical must now coexist, right? Not compete, but to truly meet the evolution expectations of today's consumer. To quote Alexander, he said, "Digital, it's not here to replace physical, right? But just a measure to ensure that no one is left behind, like sealing the basket." And now, ladies and gentlemen, here we are for the fourth and final episode of this year's series. That's the MarkHack 4.0 pre-conversation. And today's topic is a deeply human one. We're going to be talking about the psychology of experience and what truly fuels consumer decisions, right? And before proceeding, I just want to take this time to thank our audience. Thank you. Thank you so much for logging in for today's conversation. And special thanks to all those who have been consistent right from the pilot of this year's MarkHack 4.0 pre-conversation till date. We do not take it for granted. And I am sure that you've learned a lot. And I hope that you're applying the knowledge and the insights that you have received from these sessions. And today, moving forward, we're going to be asking the big question: why do people really choose one brand over another? And why do people choose one brand over another, right? What triggers or shapes the consumer behavior in this experience-driven age? And to help us unpack this, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined. We bring nothing but the best to you, right? We're joined by three remarkable speakers, three incredible speakers. First, we have the beautiful Suzan, who is the founder of Zannoza Entertainment, which is a creative force building unforgettable experience through gamified engagement, social gaming, and interactive storytelling. And next, we have the beautiful, remarkable Chidinma, who is a brilliant sales growth consultant with deep expertise in customer conversion strategy and the behavioral patterns that drive purchasing decisions. And finally, the manpower in the house, the man, of course, in the house. We have Femi, right, who is the CEO of Terzi Di Ezperti, a bold innovator at the intersection of fashion, psychology, and premium service delivery. It promises to be a thoughtful, eye-opening, insightful conversation and the perfect wrap up to this series. We're just building on the momentum. Today, it's going to be an amazing climax, even as we get up to May 23rd. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited. I'm sure you can feel it, and I'm talking a lot, right? So thank you so much for riding with us, right? And now I'm going to be giving, let's start with ladies first, right? So I'm going to be passing the mic to Suzan. Suzan, what are your expectations for today's conversation? Thank you, Suzan.
I mean, my expectation would basically just be for people to realize that, I mean, we're in a new age. I'm a very strong advocate of games. I believe that when it comes to whether it's consumer engagement, employee engagement, just people engagement generally, games and gamification is the future. And the future is now. Yeah. So I'm hoping that people are able to sort of connect with games and just better understand how to leverage that for consumer engagement.
Thank you very much. And thanks for that tagline. The future is now. And with that, I will move to the gentleman in our midst, right? But definitely, definitely not left out. So, Mr. Femi, what are your expectations for today's conversation?
Right. Gentleman, the only man, right? So again, I'm just excited. I'm always excited to speak um, in forums like this because for me, I think it's an opportunity to learn more than I get to even teach. So I'm excited about just getting feedback from whoever's in here, as well as learning from my fellow speakers too. So that's what's very interesting to me. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yay, very excited and very noble of you, right? That's why he's the only gentleman in our midst. And lastly, but definitely not the least, we have Chidinma. Chidinma, what are your expectations from today's conversation?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Antonia. Basically, I mean, I'd like to tell everybody that this is going to be like my first this is going to be my first speaking engagement. But however, I'm really excited about today's conversation because so the conversation will be around sparking ideas on how emotion and trust drive consumer decisions and not just data. And I expect that we'll be able to share like practical insights, like using like storytelling, which is being used in today's world, and also just to be able to help marketers to be able to create impactful experience.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much, right? Helping marketers to create impactful impressions. And that's all we're here to talk about, right? We're here to find out what tickles consumers and why did they choose one brand over the other. Ladies and gentlemen, you know how the drill is. We are all about honor and we'd like giving honor to whom deserves. And with that, I would be reading the bio, starting with Chidinma. Chidinma is a seasoned sales and business growth leader with 9+ years of experience in finance, gaming, RegTech, and FinTech, formerly with Akiba Digital Lending and Connex. She leverages data-driven strategies and CRM tools like Salesforce to drive results. She's passionate about AI-powered sales innovation. She mentors via ADP List and supports She Code Africa. Chidinma holds a master's in public and international affairs from the University of Lagos, and she is based in Lagos. She enjoys volleyball, I beg your pardon, which reflects a teamwork-driven mindset. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Chidinma. And so the gentleman in our midst, I will be reading his bio. That is Mr. Femi. Mr. Femi is a dynamic marketing leader and creative strategist with over a decade of experience in advertising, experiential marketing, and ad tech. From launching his media career at 18 to leading campaigns for global events like the FIFA World Cup. He held key roles across top agency. He's a certified management consultant and fellow of the IMC. He is CEO of Transmit, founder of Terzi Di Ezperti. I love that name. And a 2023 Brandcom top 35 under 35 honoree. He is also a published author. Ladies and gentlemen, drum roll please, presenting Mr. Femi. And lastly, but definitely not the least, the beautiful Suzan. Suzan is the founder of Zannoza Entertainment, a pioneering company using games to empower, engage, educate, and entertain. With 10 years plus in project management, ERP, and game design across key sectors, she creates impactful gamified solutions for learning, engagement, and events. Suzan is the exclusive Catalyst global partner in Africa, and she co-organizes Make Music Lagos, a festival with 30,000 plus attendees. She champions Africans' growth in gaming, education, and the creative industry through innovation and global partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Suzan. Well, the bio says it all, right? We are joined today by remarkable speakers, right? Not just people that will speak over our heads, but people that know their audience. And ladies and gentlemen, let's jump to the question segment, right? We're going to have a series of discussion, and at whatever point during this conversation, especially for those live on Zoom, if you have any question, you can kindly just use the chat room. You can drop your question. I will do well to attend to them. For those streaming on YouTube, you can drop your question in the comment section. We would pick it up and answer it here, and peradventure you're dropping your question at a later time, would always find a way to answer your question and get back to you, right? So thank you so much. Let's jump right to it. First, I will be addressing the gentleman in our midst, right? Was so noble. Want to give you the chance to shine. All right, so Femi, you often speak about building brands around emotional insights. Can you share how understanding consumer psychology has reshaped rather the way you design brand experiences at Terzi Di Ezperti?
Like how you get excited when you say that. Okay, so for me, I feel like, well, thank you for that again. Thank you for the introduction. Very well done. Thank you. But to quickly answer your question, for me, I think anybody who knows me knows I'm very big on observation. And observation because, to be honest, it's in my opinion, the best way to really get to know what your consumers want. If you do ask them, which is the way that most people go, 95%, and I'm just trying to be nice, right, of businesses, of agencies, would go with data that has been gleaned from questionnaires and the likes. But the honesty in these questionnaires is always something that can be called to question. If you ask me, "Oh, how often do you eat?" for instance, and I have to fill a questionnaire, I'm going to say I eat 3 times a day, right? Especially if there's a nice gentleman or a pretty looking babe in my front, I'll say I eat 3 times a day, and that might not be true, right? But the reality of life and Nigerians, especially because we're talking about home, has shown that people would almost definitely lie, right, on questionnaires. So for me, I think for you to be really able to connect with them emotionally, you need to see them in their raw selves, right? In their raw environments, it's always very helpful. And for us at Terzi, it's a big thing for us. We don't just sit down with, oh, we got this data from somewhere. I don't care how established you are as a data mining company, right? I'm always very interested in going to them, talking to the people who are actually about this. I would not sit down in my office and get data that is telling me about what's going on the street. I can have that, but for me, it's secondary. I'm very keen on going out to the streets, talking to the people on the streets. If I'm doing anything for an alcoholic band, for instance, I'm going to go into the bars. I'm going to see how they operate. I'm going to see when people get to the bars. I'm going to see what they drink at the bars. I'm going to look at the environment and understand that if I see five guys together, they're probably fine with drinking beers. But once I throw a baby in the mix, then suddenly they're trying to buy a bottle of tequila or a bottle of something. Now they're spending more just because there's just one girl in the group of five guys, right? But if I just randomly walk up to a guy and say, "What do you drink?" He'll tell me, "Oh, me and my guys buy a bottle of whiskey, we enjoy ourselves on Friday." But they're fine with beers, right? So for us, I think that's the big thing. So in being able to merge both in terms of how we take consumer behavior, the psychology of what they do and how they do, in my personal opinion, I think observation is the most important thing.
Oh, how can, right? Truly remarkable. So Femi is telling us to be observant, right? And also engaging in mining relevant raw primary data. Get to know your customers for yourself. Don't just rely on third parties for the information that you require. Get your hands dirty. Right.
Exactly.
Next, I'll be
Yeah.
next, I'll be asking Suzan. Suzan Zannoza, right? It's all about turning experience into connection and action, right? So from your gamified campaigns, what have you learned about how emotion and playfulness shape consumer decisions making more powerful than just direct persuasion?
So that's a how do I put the question now? There's a lot to the question that you've asked. So first of all, I'm going to take this more from a people engagement point of view as opposed to consumers. So for us at Zannoza, we did a lot with just corporate engagement. And that can also be tied directly into how people make decisions and how playfulness also shapes consumer decision making. So first, play doesn't distract from the purpose itself, and it's something that people need to be aware of. Because lots of times when you're talking games, the first thing people think about is kids. They think about it's an unserious method. So what I've learned, and I'll tie this to how we even create games and the frameworks that we use. So in gamification, we focus on elements of games like epic meaning, accomplishments, empowerment, ownership, scarcity, unpredictability, social influence, and avoidance. These are some of the elements that drive some of the games that we love, from the Call of Duty to FIFA to your Pokemon, to God of War. You will most likely find some of these elements when you're actually playing a game. So when it comes to tying that to solving a problem, and in this case maybe consumer decision making, you're looking at the competitive tension, the supply mechanics, the time pressure, the curiosity, the collaboration, and how this can drive how people make decisions. So when you look at the emotional side of things, right, and just looking at how you're able to get whoever it is that you're targeting to connect with your product from an emotional point of view, just put them in an arena where they can play and you start seeing people in action. I like what Femi said, a lot of times people are saying, "Oh, I'm looking at data." I mean, it's good to look at data to make kind of decisions, but when you're looking at, decision making that can influence, or how you can influence decision making of your consumers, right? You want to see the things that actually shape, how they make that decision and how they're able to connect to your brand and build loyalty over time. So look at, for example, there's this game called Design Home. I'm not an interior designer, but I play a game around interior design, and they're actually furniture sort of tied to that. So every single time I get a brief, I'm looking at how to make my house really, beautiful. I'm sort of connecting with like the brief that I'm being given and using actual real life furniture to make my furniture in game, right? In that case, I'm able to connect with the way this brand's product is. I'm able to see how it looks like without me making, a purchase. And when I'm actually ready to make that decision, I eventually make decision of buying the furniture of the company that I've interacted with. So you want to look at the fact that people don't remember messages; they remember how they feel. And for them to feel something, they need to take action. So how are you able to connect whatever it is that you're creating, whatever campaign you're creating? How are you able to connect that to how people feel, right? To the things that people enjoy, and how are you able to also use that as a way to drive the way they make decisions around your product. So within campaigns, we have this application called GoTeam, right? Where you can create a GPS based treasure hunts. Some of our partners, I know it's not very big in Nigeria for the consumer space. I don't know, maybe the marketing guys can tell us why. But I know that some of our partners have used Go Teams in other parts of the world, have been able to drive people to just scan a code and look for something, right? Whether it's the missing ingredients to your product, and they're sort of able to connect with that. And over time, you see them spending more because now they connect to that brand. If I need a drink right now, let's say I did a treasure hunt campaign for Coca-Cola, I put my QR code, I put elements, I got to actually design the elements in the game to connect with people, right? Once I'm buying any drink, the first I'm most likely going to think about is Coca-Cola, right? So basically when we are designing games, we look at what are the things that drives people's emotions when they are playing games, and how can we also tie that to the products, and then use that as a way to sort of persuade decision making without directly speaking to the consumers to say, come and buy this.
Definitely, Susan. Thank you for sharing those strategies. And it's remarkable that some of these insights that are being shared, they somehow tie down to each other. From when you're speaking and you're talking about how it's important to establish customer connection, right? Like building stories that kind of resonate with your customers, right? And in a way, befriending your customers. And I love the example you gave about the decor game, right? And it just brought to mind something that Olu Sheshan, I hope I still pronounced his name correctly, said in the pilot episode, where he said, in his words, he said, don't show your customers, don't tell them what to do. Show them where they are going to, right? Tell them where you're going to, show them how you're going to take them to that place. And that's some of the things you've highlighted for us, right? And with that, I'm going to be asking the next question to Chidinma. Chidinma, still on emotional connections. How have you seen emotional or psychological factors affect user trust in financial decision making?
Okay, thank you, Antonia, for that question. So I would like to draw back from obviously from my previous experience. So trust is such an important factor, especially in the underserved markets. And when I said the underserved markets, I mean the informal sector. So I'll just quickly give like a brief story while I worked in Remoni, because I spent about 5 years there. And I met, at that point, we had a new product that was entering into the market. And we just started giving out, facilities or loans to markets, to not just to small business owners. And we just realized that we're not getting the kind of traction that we wanted. And the reason behind that is that, they just felt that we were scammers, despite the fact that, we've been in the market for a long time. We have our banners everywhere. We even have radio jingles and all that. but they were just wary of, trying to getting a loan from us because according to them, and also according to the research that we did, they've seen people who had reached out to them to either take up a loan and they ended up never getting a loan, or not just take up a loan, but those who got a loan were eventually like scammed. Like the payment they had to make was like, over 200% of what they collected. So, and this is why, that's why I'd say that trust is very key, is because we now had to kind of have like an informal kind of meeting with them. And we held like short sessions, trying to tell them how much, just trying to tell them how genuine that we are, despite the fact that, we've just been like in the market like for so long. And eventually we had to, draw up strategies on how to not just be able to get the business owners, but also be able to get those for those who have small businesses. I mean, those who are who are part of on this call, you know that you have, heads of businesses, especially like when you go to the market. We now realize that we had to use some sort of influence, and that, data was just not enough for us. So what we did is to, kind of buy their trust over, and, let them know that we can be able to, we can be able to give them these loans or these facilities that they are requesting for. And also, this did not just play. This did, this did not just happen in Remony where I work. Also in Akiba Digital, we had, in fact, our product was targeting the underserved markets. I mean, that's what our product was targeting, and we're just trying to be able to use the informal data that we had to be able to, for financial institutions to be able to give them loans. So what we realized that we had to kind of prioritize like emotional reassurance, making sure that they feel understood and secure. I think it's very, very important that either a consumer or a buyer is feels really secured, because that what I did realize over time is that as soon as they feel really secure, they'll become your foot soldiers. What it means is that if they have trust in your product or in your services, then you probably spend less time doing like marketing activities or trying to even do sales activities, because they will be the ones, trying to tell everyone that they can about your product. So essentially, what I did as well as my team is that we just used empathic communication, and also we did some sort of clear proposition to directly let them know that this is what we have to offer and this is what we expect from them. So and really, when we kind of say using this, when we did use this strategy, what I did realize, I mean, going back at the back end, is that this automatically increased client acquisition for me, because that was like one of my KPIs, to ensure that I was able to not just get customers but also ensure that they were retained. So this strategy that I use, instead of trying to use data all the time, or just thinking that the person, whoever is using my products or using my services, automatically kind of trusts our brand. So the strategy I use just literally helped me to increase our customer acquisition by 40% by targeting, or by literally buying into their emotions and ensuring that I'm able to build trust. And basically, since then, since that I realized the importance of trust, it's something that is a tool that is something that I've always been using to just to ensure that not just to retain those customers, but to also be able to bring new customers into all the places that I have worked. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chidinma, for that, establishing trust with your customers, right? How relevant it is. And you did cite a very important point, you said by doing so, you're empowering your customers to be your brand ambassadors. In your own term, you said to be your foot soldiers, right? And with that, Femi, there's been a kind of a bit contradiction because to popular opinion, we say it's all about data, right? And you've pointed out, and Suzan has also buttressed the point that it's not just about sourcing for data, but you have to be specific with your data. You have to be personal with your data. You have to get to know your niche for yourself, right? Don't just rely on the general data that's available to like just generalized data. And with that, I want to ask you a question. So how do you balance data-driven personalization and then that authentic human communication connection that invariably builds trust and customer loyalty at the end of the day?
Okay, so I think first off, I'm not sure there's a disagreement, right? I'm fine with data. My only concern is how the data is gotten, right? Because I could ask and you would tell me what you feel I want to hear, what you feel is politically correct, what you feel is nice to hear or nice to say, right? So if I do ask certain more pointed questions or I observe you, um, then it's easier that way because then I can see for a fact, and then I can glean the data that I need to be able to gather my insights and then be able to properly do that. Now, when I do that, it's then easier for me to be able to create solutions for you that would ensure that the human connection is not lost. Do you get where I'm coming from? Now I'll give you an example. Um, so, and I'm sorry if this hurts anybody's brand, but I don't think it would. A lot of times, right? So let me look at data. If I'm going to go by data and I work for a Coca-Cola, for instance, right? Or maybe I shouldn't have called the brand name. I'm sorry, right? So if I work for a certain soda brand, yes, and then I look at the data is going to show me that this many cases, for instance, have been sold, right? Now I'm producing a soda, which I would interpret as people are drinking and consuming my soda. This is why they're buying this many cases in store or in the open markets, right? Uh, there's another soda that's also popular. Maybe they've lost a bit of market share now, and the same thing. I would assume that when the numbers say that I have sold this many cases, is because people are buying to drink, right? But there's a particular soda that has been rumored, or allegedly said to be good for toilet washing, right? There's another soda that was very popular in the mechanic shops because they used to use it to lose bolts. So when you have bolts and nuts that are rusty and are almost impossible to take out, you soak it or you pour that particular soda on it and you give it some time and you can do that, right? So I would sit in my office and say, oh, this many people are drinking these sodas because this many cases have been sold. But if I go into the streets or I go into the main, because I'll see that many of the sodas that were not bought for consumption, they were bought for this, right? And there's now a third soda company that has created a separate line to be able to do things that they don't want you to just be sure about, but they want you to be too sure about, right? So these guys are making soaps, they're making hand sanitizers. Maybe they have realized that, look, on the street, so people are in need of maybe more cleaning supplies that maybe some product or byproduct of what we do primarily can take care of. And guess what? A whole stream of income has been opened.
Mm-hmm.
So, in terms of even business understanding and being able to cater to the needs of your consumers, you need to understand why they do what they do. right?
Yeah.
We know the bitters category, very popular. Guess what? People don't buy bitters, to be fair. How many people buy all these bitters and all these bitters drinks because they want to detox or they want to take something natural or herbal? They are buying it for performance, a performance enhancement, right? So you say, oh, we're producing herbal products, we're producing very healthy products. Clap for yourself. Is that what the consumer feels? Is that what the consumer is buying? Because you say you're producing that. What the consumer is buying is something to make him do 1 hour on somebody's daughter. Do you get where I'm coming from? So it's a lot, right? And that's essentially why this is very important. Understanding why your consumers or your customers do what they do, why they buy your product, why they don't buy your product. Because there are products that you have that competition is killing it, and you're wondering, but it's the same thing, right? There's something they understand or they do that, pretty has put them on the pedestal that you're not on. So yeah, my submission.
Thank you very much. I was trying to keep a straight face throughout your session. But thank you so much. And then it drives home the point of you have to understand your why at the end of the day, right? Because we might all be all
Totally.
out for we might all be all out for business, right? But you must understand your why. Why do you exist? What are you driving at? And that would
Your
help you.
why would help you with your what. When you
Yeah,
understand the
definitely.
why of what you do, when you understand the why of why your customers interact with your product, then it's easier to decide the what channel to use, what platform to use. If you're talking about digital, how am I connecting with them? So what do I do comes from the understanding of why, so it's easier that way.
Definitely. Thank you very much. And next I'm going to be asking Suzan. Suzan, well, your experience shows that sensory and interactive designs can change the way people feel about brands. Now, we're not advocating for manipulating customers here. We just want our audience to make more sales, right? I mean, variable make the world a better place, right? So how do you intentionally craft those feelings to drive loyalty?
Okay, so I'm just going to continue from where Femi stopped, which is, it's just talking about the why. So the first is why exactly, are you trying to, get them to connect? What's the goal here, right? So once you look at what the goal is, it's easy to say, okay, do you know what? Now we want to be able to create things in a way that the consumer can connect with it. And the best way really is how can you get your people, or how can you get consumers to contribute creatively, right, and see themselves either in the product or in the story, when you're creating, those experiences, those campaigns, or the game experiences, or if you're creating a game for them. So I mean, if you look at one of the reasons why I probably still, take Oxford and Yali biscuits, right? There's that nostalgia, right? When I think about like Snake and Ladder, and the likes. And then when you're looking at how people actually can contribute creatively and see themselves in the story. So I'll give an example of I would say, I think, Bravo, right? I'm trying to contribute, and I want to see, like, how am I able to contribute? How am I able to connect, right? How am I able to see myself in a particular or maybe not one brand, but let me use Nike, right? And I'm trying to bring in like some examples that maybe people can connect with. So I don't know how many people know about Nike Run, where you're able to connect with other people in the Nike, community, but also able to showcase like Nike products through your earning points, your participating in challenges, and just sort of contributing. You see yourself, improving health wise, right? Or when it comes to fitness, right? Sometimes people join those challenges because they want to showcase maybe their new kicks, or they want to showcase the new attire that they just got, right? Sometimes you're sort of able to jump on that to be a part of that whole story about what it is that Nike has said that you can do. Nike has said you can be the next, Serena Williams. So I'm going to participate in this challenge and earn my points and and likes. Also there's bringing it home as well when we're creating experiences for people to connect with. We are first, like I said, is how do people feel about your brand, and beyond that, how can they feel seen, creative, how can they feel connected and loyal to your brand. Google Maps is always an example that I end up using. I'm a level 7 local guide, and one of the reasons why I'm very particular about Google Maps is because when I was working as a market analyst back in the day, I used to travel a lot, to just find out what's going on in the market, how engaging with our products. And every time I get into a new city, most especially if I don't know anybody in that city, I want to know the kind of hotel that I should stay, at, certain places that I should go to. But I wasn't getting that information right online. And I didn't really know if I could trust the word of anybody that I just spoke to randomly. So one of the things I started doing was also putting, reviews around places to go to and this is just one like personal experience for food, um for hotels to stay in. And as I was doing that, I was earning points. I saw myself every time I put in like pictures of a place or I give, a review, I feel, connected to Google Maps. And then what they sort of did, afterwards is when you get to level 5, and a lot of people might not even be aware of this. There's a whole group in Nigeria that is actually dedicated to Google Maps, right? They're not we just love the Google Maps brand because we see ourselves in those decisions that we get to make. Because if I'm trying to make a decision about where to stay, right, somebody out there that is also trying to make that decision as well. How can I make sure that the experience that I went through, they don't have to go through that, right? And they sort of created this niche where every time they're doing their local guides connects, every year they fly people into to America, and then they also do some local events as well. Some of us have taken it upon ourselves to do events where we're saying, oh, we're actually doing a geo walk, right? Who is walking, and then walk and map places on Google Maps, right? They didn't pay us for it, but somehow we've seen ourselves as sort of connected to the brand, and they're really fun for us because now I'm looking forward to how much I'm going to make from this. If I add more pictures, how many points am I going to make from that? But I also have that sense of epic, like this.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, hi,
Hello.
Suzan. Okay,
How
you're
use
Yeah, do you get
muted.
how use
You're
how use Google
muted.
Maps to get back.
So I just
You're
wanted to
still muted, Suzan. Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to give an example in terms of how, for me as a consumer, right, how I was able to connect to a brand just because they were able to leverage certain elements. If you also look at Mary Game, for example, I want to buy stocks. When they were trying to get into the stock market, right, they just created this game that allowed consumers like me who have never played in the stock market before, created a game around trading, right? And then we trade stocks that are not real, but I'm learning more about how to buy stocks, when to sell, and things like that. And because they also created this competitive element where, maybe the top, 3 people or the top 5 people for that week get, actual funds that can be used or invested into the actual, Meristem, product, it made me want to continue playing and also seeing how I can start investing in stocks, right? So yeah, these are just elements of how you can get people to just sort of connect to the brand and feel themselves in it, like feel the pain points and feel like they're actually contributing towards something larger than themselves.
Thank you so much. And I truly appreciate how you broke it step by step for us, right? And if I'm to sum what you've shared with us, I would say inclusion, right? Giving your client base inclusion, empowering them, make them feel like they are partners, collaborators in your brand agenda, right? Truly remarkable. I'm just checking the time and I'm like, who touched the second time? Who's doing this? Who's touching that clock? All right, let's see how much more we can take from today's session. And jump over to Chidinma. Chidinma, well, we've had all these remarkable things, right? And sometimes adapting strategies, right, might be perceived differently from your clients, right? And I'm going to be asking how adopting the adoption of digital financial tools and what roles, I beg your pardon, let me come over that again. In your experience, how does perceived risks influence adaptation of digital financial roles, right? We're using this as the financial sector as a case study, since you've played in that sector for a while now. So in your experience, how does perceived risks influence adaptation of digital financial tools, and what role does emotional reassurance play in overcoming that barrier? Again, to simplify it, how can you establish trust, right, in your clients? Because we want them to become part of our client base. We want to establish brand loyalty with our customers. So how can you, using the financial case study, how can what role does emotional reassurance play in overcoming barriers? Thank you.
Thank you, Antonia. So from, I mean, my past experience, especially at Akiba Digital, you might know that Akiba Digital is based in South Africa. So data is such a big thing, like data breach and data privacy is such a big thing in South Africa. And what I realized is that we constantly had to reassure the companies that we had to work with, the companies that we are reaching out to, that we comply to GDPR as well as POPIA. So these are all like GDPR and POPIA are all bodies that are they are very, you have to, for some companies you have to actually even be licensed with them. But once you work with the fintech, with the kind of business that we do, we constantly had to let our customers know that, let our clients know that we are in compliance with POPIA Acts as well as GDPR. And the reason behind that is that there was always a risk of, they were just always wondering where their data were going to, because they were giving us their bank statements, their ID cards were going to be put into the system. There were a lot of personal information as well as their pictures. And we all know that if you're very competent with the black web, a lot of this data is being, some companies do sell this data at the black web, so at the dark web. So a lot of people they're so much concerned about where is this information going to. If we give you our bank statement, we're putting in our bank statement, my picture is being taken, my driver's license, literally everything. You can literally track me down, right? Because we also have like your phone numbers there. And they're always, the concern about where this data is going into is always a question that we always have to reassure our customers. And one of the things that we use as an assurance is that we let them know, because that we are in compliance with POPIA Act as well as the GDPR, which a lot of, even for the telcos and a lot of fintech companies that have to do with data have to be in compliance with the GDPR. For the POPIA Act as well, in South Africa, you have to be in compliance with that, because if you're not, you're going to be fined heavily. So we assure them that their data is very safe with us, and that also in terms of where we house these data. For us, we were using Amazon, and Amazon is one of their data centers is one of the top data centers, and we let them know that this is what we use. This is where our data system, our information is being hosted. So it's just something that we have to, constantly reassure them during conversations. And every time we have to, have this conversation, maybe we have to talk to them for the first time. The first questions we always get is, where is our information going? So what are you doing with this data? What are you doing with all the information? And we have to, constantly let them know that, or we constantly have to let them know that, that we are in compliance with these data privacy companies or data privacy acts as well. We also show them testimonials of the customers that we have dealt with, because those testimonials give them some sort of reassurance, right? When they see that you have dealt with like very, very big companies, which at Akiba Digital we had dealt with, we show them the testimonials. And even on the website, they can see that, okay, we have dealt with X, Y, and Z companies. And that's why, even from a sales perspective, as salespeople, we always kind of try to target the very, very big companies when you're trying to, close a deal, because you know that once you're able to win one big company, it saves you the kind of stress of trying to constantly reassure small businesses, medium businesses about, that data, because they see that, okay, you're already working with, let's say, an old mutual in SA, and that's, that means that for this company to be able to work with you, that means that, you're in line with you're in line with all these, or you have complied rather with all these rules and regulation. And we also another reassuring tactics that we do is that we also let them know that as a startup business, we don't want to be fined, right? Because for SA, they are very, very, very strict on data. So we always let them know that, we are just starting up and we don't want to be fined at all. So if we have nothing to do, we have to be in compliance. We want to ensure that this data is kept private. Also, we also do some sort of, we do like some LinkedIn posts. So they see the people that are working in the team, especially like the tech people, because these are the people that could trade this data at the back end. So they know who our CTOs are. During sales conversations, sometimes we bring in the CTOs who serves as also another reassurance, because they begin to speak the technical language and they understand that every information that is being given to us is kept safe. And
Definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. I'm so sorry to cut you short, but we have only 8 minutes left and would really love to stop at 4 o'clock, because we always like to keep to time, right? And thank you so much for sharing all those strategies with us. And just to sum what you said, you spoke so much about transparency, right? You spoke about open communication. And then another thing you said, although we're talking about psychology and how to build trust in your customers and to ensure that when they're thinking about that product line or that service line, the first thing that pops up in their mind is your brand or your product, right? You spoke about results. At the end of the day, it's all about valuability also, right? So how valuable is your product, is your service to your clients, right? So you have to ensure that you're building the right services, you're offering value to your customers, and then all these other wonderful strategies that are being shared is just jar to ensure that you seal the deal, right? And with that, I hope we can still take one round of questions from each panelist, and with that, just jump quickly to Femi. Femi, what psychology blind spots do you think most African brands miss when trying to create meaningful experience, and how can we close those gaps? Thank you.
Okay, so for me, to be fair, I think the biggest blind spot, really big, my opinion, is everybody's trying to sell. And that's literally where everybody misses it. Everyone's trying to sell. A lot of times people don't want to be sold to, right? They just want to feel seen. They want to feel like a part of the process. They want to feel like it's a connection, right? A lot of Nigerian brands, I dare say most, want to skip that entire process and just jump to where you are putting your money in your pocket and paying me for my product and or service. And that's the biggest thing again. So how you react to what I do, how you interact with my product or my service or my brand is not anything. You just want me to buy. And once I start to feel like I'm targeted that way, there's a very high chance I start to clamp up. So if I go somewhere, for instance, and everything is transactional, you lose me, right? So if I go to a hotel, for instance, for a vacation or it's my wedding anniversary, and I say that to somebody there, I say, oh, I'm booking this weekend because it's my wedding anniversary. And I get into the hotel room and on the TV it says happy wedding anniversary, Mr. Femisire Ajayi. I'm excited, right? And that makes me emotionally connected to that space, to the hotel. And I'll probably come back again and even recommend it to someone else, right? But if at the point where I'm booking, I say, oh, it's my wedding anniversary, and the first thing you say, oh, okay, so we can do customized TV messages for you, is, 2,000 naira. Then we can put flower, then it's 5,000 naira. And and everything is just transactional. Even if I do pay for the very first time, I'm probably not just going to go back there. Do you get where I'm coming from? So it's a thing. It's a big thing. You go for buffets now, they will tell you you have access to maybe unlimited Zobo, unlimited Tiger Nut drink. They just want you to feel seen. They want you to, okay, I see that you have paid for all of this food. I'm going to give you something to wash it down with, right? So it's different from when you just say, oh, pay for your buffet. Oh, we are not giving any drinks. So you have to pay for water. You have to pay for your soft drink. You have to do all of that. It's a big blind spot for a lot of brands. They just want to sell. They're not interested in doing anything for you. So I think that should be fixed and fast.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I wish I could just like point out some of the beautiful things I learned from that session, but time is on our side. So I'll just take a parting word from Suzan and Chidinma. Let's start from Suzan. Suzan, if you were to summarize everything and just one take home you would like to give to the audience, something they should implement, because in the audience we have some startups that are gearing up for their final pitch events come May 23rd. So what would be that one thing they can implement to really scale up their solutions and services? Thank you.
So I'll just quickly say that in terms of what we've learned in our own process of engaging people, if you want to influence decisions, don't just show up in front of the customer. Invite them to play, invite them to feel, invite them to connect, and act as well. And that's when you move from just trying to sell to becoming an experience or creating an experience for your consumers that you eventually build brand loyalty, and also could help with influencing decision making when it comes to consuming your products.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and of course, if there's
Just
any,
yeah,
if
go
you
ahead.
need any help with that, we're available at Zannoza, of course, to help you out with that.
Definitely. Of course, you can reach out to any of our speakers, or you can email us and we'll sure link you up with our panelists. I'm just taking copyright of your statement, right? So just in case you guys see me quoting that, I got permission from Suzan. If you want to influence decisions, invite them to play. Oh, so catchy and nice. All right. So finally, Chidinma, what's your final take home for today's session? Thank you.
Thanks, Antonia. So my take home will be for small businesses to go beyond data. They should try and build some sort of emotional connections with their consumers or with their clients, and also try to personalize their experience. So for each consumer or each customer, while it might take in the beginning, it might seem difficult, but trying to personalize the consumer or the customer's experience would would not just lead to would not just help to grow the business, but will also be able to scale that business and also be able to retain such consumers.
Thank you so much. Go beyond data, establish personal connections. Thank you very much. And special thank you to our audience. Thank you for showing up and turning in today's conversation. We hope you have learned a lot. This is also an opportunity to invite those that are yet to register for the MarkHack 3.0 conference holding on the 23rd of May. Yes, in less than 2 weeks at Landmark Event Center. That's next week, Friday. You're invited. All you need to do is register to secure your slot, your space, right? So you can go to www.markhack, right, and register to attend. And special thank you, of course, to our panelists. Thank you for doing justice to today's conversation. And also special thank you to all our previous panelists. Thank you for joining this year's MarkHack 4.0 pre-conversation series. It's really been insightful. It's been a great privilege hosting this year's series. Special thank you to the founder of Obiekwe Innovation Center, that is Mr. Benga Afolabi, as we love to call him, VA. And thank you once again. I have a lot of thanks. Thank you, Femi. Special thanks. Thank you, Chidinma. Thank you, Suzan. Thank you, Suzan. Suzan was a bit under the weather, but thank you for making it to today's conversation. And we hope you recover quickly. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Remain blessed. Hope to see you next week. Bye, everybody. Thank you.